And let's go ahead and get started with our first speaker today. That's Mr. Glen Gibellina. He's the founder of Why Dads Matter and a member of the Florida Court Watchers. Glen is an advocate for parents and frequently works with other community groups for matters regarding justice, especially for the poor. Today, Glen's going to discuss parental alienation syndrome. Glen? Sorry.
My name is Glen Gibellina. I'm the president and founder of Why Dads Matter. We're a state organization that enforces parental rights, not only with fathers, with parents throughout the state of Florida and soon to go nationally. I'll be talking today about parental alienation. I thought it'd be very fitting, since this is Child Abuse Month, that goes on normally unrecognized in the rest of the state and through our state agencies. I'll be talking about judicial corruption and also be talking about how you can get involved actively with your local judiciary and what programs work and which don't work, and try to protect our most valuable asset, which is our children. And currently the local courts are not doing that, so we have to take the Constitution and our rights as a parent and move forward on this mission. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Glen Gibellina, and I am the president and founder of Why Dads Matter. Good to see you here today. I know most of you, so this is going to be entertaining as well as informative about parental alienation, and we have many experts in this room on both sides of the fence of this destructive syndrome that it currently goes on. I thought this was very appropriate that since April is Child Abuse Month, that when you look at the judiciary and you look at parental alienation and you look at Child Protective Services and you ask them, well, what do you do about that? You know, you get a deer in the headlight look. I mean, they don't do anything. The most destructive thing you can do, the worst child abuse that is happening, happens through parental alienation. And it starts with our judicial system. The insidious system that is currently under effect that we have is broken, it doesn't work, and it revolves around money. If you follow the money, you will follow the corruption. The average divorce runs anywhere between $50,000 and $200,000. It's a $500 billion business, child support business. It's a $50 billion divorce industry business. More money passes through the hands and family courts than all the other courts combined. Just think about that for a minute. More money passes through the family courts than all the other courts combined. What does that tell you about our society? What does that tell you about the unity in our family values? There isn't any. Not according to the black robes that sit up there. And as an activist, I can assure you, I've been going through this for 10 years. And I'll tell you my story, and I'm not going to dwell on it, but I've been doing this for 10 years. 10 years I've been trying to get more than 4 days a month with my only child. She just turned 13. For 5 years, there was an absolute no contact order because the judge didn't think I was smart enough to homeschool my child. At 8 years old, the judge told me, Judge Jeanette Dunnigan, you're not smart enough, Mr. Gibellina, to homeschool your child. In fact, I think you only want to homeschool your child so you can get more time with her. Imagine the thought passing through that judge's mind. You know, you're right. I'm just going to go around that 4 days and just get more time with my daughter because I wanted to homeschool. And I belonged to homeschool groups for years. I was very familiar with the curriculum. I had it all set out. But the judge did not see the way. It was a high conflict divorce and custody case, and the deepest pockets, the highest conflict attorney, and the one who lies the best in family courts are going to win. We have no opportunity for a jury trial. There is no due process. It is one big nightmare. Family court needs to be dismantled. Fortunately, we have some pretty good legislation currently in the family courts. I've been to Tallahassee several times. I know all our representatives locally and statewide, And we're moving through the alimony reform, which just passed the House and is going to the Senate. There's a very good shot that that's going to pass. And within that alimony reform are 5 pages of equal parenting. So we're happy to see that go through. But on a local level, you have to be active. I mean, there's this one big secret society called family court, and the corruption runs deep and it runs often. And that's the problem that we have. That most parents, pro se litigants in particular, they get crushed. I mean, most of the folks here, they had a 5-stop Supreme Court task force go around the state. And I went to 3 of them. Most of you went to a couple of them. We'll see if they hear us, because the big corruption of everything I heard in Bartow, Miami, Lake City, and the other Pensacola and Jacksonville, 90% of the input was family courts. So if that doesn't send a message to the Supreme Court task force, nothing will. So I'm following that very closely as well. On a local level, I believe everyone, if they be active and let them know who you are. I am also a judicial watcher. I sit in family courts once a week. I sit in drug court, and I'm active at a local community, in a local level. And it's funny because every time I go through the process, I have the bailiff that they come up to me and say, "Well, Mr. Gibellina, what courthouse you going to today?" And it's funny you should ask, all of them. I mean, that's how assertive you have to be with these guys. I mean, they ride up on the elevator with me. They escort me in the room. Imagine an extra bailiff shows up when I sit down. They don't allow me to take notes. They don't allow me to record. They don't allow me to take my camera in there. It's a secret society. You walk in a courtroom, there's cameras all over you. You go on the criminal side, there's cameras in there. But family court, no such animal. It doesn't exist. Because they do not want to be accountable for their horrendous actions. They do not uphold the Constitution. They do not hold up our civil rights. They do not hold up our due process. And they've been doing it for years and years and years without any accountability. And I'm saying up here that enough is enough. These people put their pants on the same way. They have to be accountable for their disastrous decisions. And hopefully some of the legislation that is coming down the pipe will hold them accountable. But every time you file a complaint through the judiciary or through an attorney, through the Florida bar, it's like the wolf watching the hen house. If you're not stealing money through a trust fund or doing drugs or sleeping with your client, they're never going to do anything to the attorneys. It just doesn't exist. Family court, they won't touch it. I write a lot of letters to the editor. I get about 30 letters published a year. Most publishers will not touch the family court. Most news media will not touch the family courts. That's how powerful these judges are. They don't want to step on any toes. They don't want to look bad. They do not want to do anything to enhance good parents. There's good parents out there that are getting destroyed on a daily basis, and I witness it. Alimony, that's a whole different animal, but that's got to change as well. I'm talking about the basic rights to be a parent. And it's not happening. It hasn't happened. So what can we do about it? We work with the legislation. The legislation is only as good if it's being followed. I'll give you an example. We have a Shared Parenting Act signed by the 12th Circuit Judge Owens that says, here's the guidelines. Other than an unfit parent or they're in jail, it's 50-50 custody. That is soon going to be a statewide, but it's already in the 12th. So as I sit in these family courtrooms and I see that this court order that was written by the Chief Justice in the 12th Circuit is being completely ignored, there's a problem. These family judges saying, you know what, we don't care what he said. We're not following it. And they ignore the fact that there are standing orders to protect our rights, and there's no accountability. That has got to change. I had suggested to Vern Buchanan, who is our federal senator, that we need a federal task force to come in there anonymously, sit in that courtroom, and as soon as our rights are being violated by the U.S. Constitution, and they'd have to wait about 2 minutes before they would arrest the judge and have him step down and get rid of all the lawyers. There's where the problem is. You talk to most members that go through family court, what's the first thing they ask you in your divorce? Fill out a financial affidavit. It's amazing when you're broken, living under a bridge, your divorce is about, 15 minutes long and it's over in a week. You're head of some big corporation and you got some assets and you got children involved, they'll drain you dry. They'll break you, and it's a terrible, terrible system. The other problem that we have is the system itself. That the bailiffs within the courtroom that took an oath to uphold your Constitution, that is so far out of whack, that's not even close. They work for the people. But when you walk in there, they work for the judge. They try to intimidate you. They tell you what to do. They don't acknowledge you as a citizen, and they certainly do not uphold your constitutional right. That whole mindset of the Gestapo style within the family court system has got to be eliminated. And I think with a federal task force that this could probably be accomplished if we ever got it to that level. We have a great Constitution. Unfortunately, they think that it's null and void in the family courts. And that's not right. I mean, we have God-given inalienable rights to be a parent. And the problem is the courts don't recognize that. They want to prolong these cases as long as they can. They've got the documents there, and I'll give you another example, is a parenting plan. In high conflict divorces, there's an 18-page parenting plan. It divides up your holidays, your summer vacations, and if you can't agree on it, then you go to a parenting coordinator. Well, my parenting coordinator took a year. And during that year, I was on supervised visitation. She didn't get the first page filled out. So I went back to the judge and I said, this isn't working out. Well, we'll get you another one. No, we're not going to get another one because they're qualified by the 12th. You said they were. If these people, the parenting coordinators, were ever to try to make it out in the real world, they wouldn't last 2 weeks. They'd be fired. If they would be gone if their job description was to get the job done, and it's not getting done. Why do cases lag on? I'll give you an example. My case has gone 14 years. 14 years, and it's still open. And I still haven't got more than 4 days with my child. There's something inherently wrong when the judge looks at a case, particularly my case, and there's 800 docket entries, 14 years, thousands of witnesses. Don't you think that should be a red flag? And they just mull it over. Nah, let's have a status conference. We'll set it for next year. And the other problem is with these judges, they're on a rotation basis. Most, if not all, judges are unqualified to be in the family court arena. They don't have the education, they don't have the common sense, and they certainly don't have the Constitution in mind about being a parent. They can't wait to get rotated out of there. It's like a death sentence to them. So if they can push off a case for 2 years and let it for the next guy, that's what they do. And I can tell you in high conflict cases, such as my own, it goes on all the time. I've had 5 judges. 5 judges. And still no satisfaction. So there's something inherently wrong with the system when you go that long with that kind of abuse. The other side of that is the parent who keeps you from your child. What an insidious consequence that other parent does to destroy your relationship with the other child. Those people need to be put in jail. The judges that allow it need to be put in jail. And the high conflict attorneys that fester it need to be put in jail. That's the only way you're going to stop it. Once you stop the money flow and correct the judges we'll have a better family court. Let's talk about jury trials. Why on earth don't we have jury trials? Because they said it's a civil case and there's no money involved. I find that hard to believe because you talk to most people who get divorced. They're broke, they're filing bankruptcy, and it's a hideous process. So that's another thing I think we need, not only a federal task force, that we should have jury trials. And I was talking on Roger on the way up here and brought up a very good point. You know, most material assets, if you're dividing up a house or a car, certainly worth over $20. So that's something hopefully we can look into and address that issue as well. I think that would be a very powerful tool within the judicial system for the family courts. You know, as you go through the family courts, the attorneys, they don't have your best interest in. They do not have your best interest. They want to know how much they can get up front for retainer, how long they can continue this case, and how long the money's going to be going. And more than likely, both attorneys, no matter how they may feel on the outside, they're in cahoots. You're nothing but a pawn to those guys. Oh yeah, we'll keep this case going on for a couple years, but I got this other case we need to settle. It goes on every day. You don't think it does? It does. And I don't care what attorney you have. And the good attorneys, talk about good attorneys, they get chewed up and spit out just like the litigants do. No, because you're not part of the system. You're not part of trying to solve the system the right way. And once they get an attorney like that, they get bad decisions, the attorneys get disgusted, and eventually they leave the family court division. I talked to a lot of attorneys. They won't even go into it because of the corruption. Those are good attorneys. Those are the attorneys that we really need in there, are the ones that have the backbone and will uphold our Constitution. Most family court attorneys fall within the good old boy club, and they're corrupted from day one. We have, and I'll give you an example, we have 33 judges and magistrates in the 12th Circuit, Sarasota, Manatee County. I pulled a jacket. When I say jacket, I mean I pulled their law degrees, I pulled where they went to school, where they went to college. 33 judges and magistrates. Of all the schooling they had, the most they had were 3 hours in family court. And guess what the 3 hours was? How to fill out a financial affidavit. Does that tell you something? Let's see what we can divvy up and how much we can keep our bottom line going. That's all they care about. They don't have any social degrees. They don't have any family training whatsoever. I was in Bartow talking to the head guy there. He said, well, I was a family court and I didn't have any training. That should tell you something. When someone on the Supreme Court task force of Florida says, I was in family court for 2 years and I had no training in family court. There has to be a filter system instead of, we'll let the chief judge decide who's going to go there. And typically it's the new kid on the block. And that's got to change. Why shouldn't we be able to vet the judges and call them out if they're unqualified? Because they think they're above the law. That's why. And they're not above the law. And no matter how hard we try, we still get crushed. And that's the problem. Most people, they give up. And who suffers on that? The children suffer. We've got 30 million children out there that are in single-family homes that never have any contact with the other parent. Now, this shirt may say why dads matter, but I will assure you this happens on both sides of the fence. It happens to good moms. It happens to good dads. The corruption has no gender whatsoever. Whoever's got the deepest pockets and the high conflict attorney is going to win that case, hands down. And our children lose out. Our children are scarred for life. That's the real child abuse that's going on. The courts don't recognize it. CPS doesn't recognize it. The Sheriff's Department doesn't recognize it. Nobody recognizes it till it's too late, until there's a suicide jail, death, and then they still don't get a wake-up call. They continue on because of the love of the money and keeping the conflict going. Parental alienation is an hideous, it's the worst form of child abuse, bar none. Let's have to look at it. I've talked to many children that have been alienated. They're basket cases. They're scarred. And I'll tell you right now, I have a 13-year-old daughter. She's one of them. In 5 years, I haven't heard her say, "I love you, Dad." Well, what's wrong with that system? It's hideous. No parent should have to go through that. And too many give up. They just give up. They're trying to hold the rest of the family together. They're working, and they simply give up. And our children really lose on this end of the deal. They're emotionally scarred. They do worse in school. They do worse in social media. They get pregnant. They run away from home. All the statistics are out there. You can go to my website, Why Dads Matter. There's a ton of information there. The legislation is there. Like I said, I've been up to Tallahassee three times already. You have to be active at a local level. The federal and the state is nice, but they have lobbyists. That's a whole different ballgame. But I guarantee you, if you had a group of people that sat in a courtroom on every high conflict case with a notepad and a pen, the decisions would change. Because that's what the judges fear. When they close that door and there's no camera, and likely there's not even recording equipment, and even if there's a recording equipment, lo and behold, it gets lost or damaged or altered. How does that happen? Because they won't allow you to bring in your own recording equipment, like a Sony cam or a Tascam. Oh, you want to record it? Go get a court reporter at $125 an hour. They break you. And I sat down with the state's attorney and I said, let me get this straight. We can have an illegal in this country go to Winn-Dixie and steal a $25 steak. He gets arrested. The value is over $25. So now this illegal in our judicial system, the same courtroom, same courthouse that has family court, this person gets a public defender free of charge, gets an interpreter free of charge, gets a reasonable bond, gets a court reporter in case of an appeal during this whole trial for an illegal person that stole a $25 steak. I told the chief judge, I said, you walk across the hallway and you walk into family court, you got to pay through the nose to an attorney, you want a court reporter, it's $125 an hour, and there's no justice. So the taxpayers get hammered picking up the cost of an illegal stealing a steak, yet there's no relief in sight for the family courts. And that's just wrong. That's absolutely wrong. The alienation that goes on a daily basis has got to stop. And you've got all the problems down the road. Let's talk about the problems after the alienation. There is a ton of statistics out there that will tell you that these children don't do as well in school. They get pregnant earlier. They run away. I send out one of my things that I do, since there's only 33. So I send out postcards every month or every 6 weeks. Roger, can I get my postcard from that table, please? It's sitting right on top of there. And okay. So what I do is I always try to focus and keep my name in front of them. This is the back of the postcard. I send out 33. I send it out to the Florida Bar, Sarasota chapter, the Manatee chapter. And this basically says, fatherless children are at greater risk of drug and alcohol abuse, twice as likely to drop out of school, more likely to be in trouble with the law, have more physical, emotional, behavioral problems, and mental health problems, 5 times more likely to be poor, lower test, likely to engage in earlier sexual activity, 11 times more violent behavior at school, 43% of the prison inmates come from fatherless homes. And here's what I send them. Runaway kid smoking dope, holding a teddy bear. That sends a message to them. And I do something like this every month to them. Anyways, I'll be available for questions. I want to thank you for your time. And don't give up the fight. Our kids are worth it to our last dying breath.